You're listening to the 49 Carats Podcast, a 49ers Goldmine production with Stephanie Sanchez.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the 49 Carats Podcast. I'm your host, Steph. It is Wednesday, August 20th, and I don't normally do a show on an off-season Wednesday, but today definitely felt like an exception because we got some news, some very important news on the 49ers wide receiver front that just came across our desk today. I'm going to start with the one that wasn't expected, right? All right, so let's start off talking about Jacob Cowing. Jacob Cowing re-aggravated his hamstring yesterday's practice. He was seen not practicing today. So Kyle Shanahan on KNBR did reveal that it is a hamstring injury for Cowing. Remember, he missed a lot of training camp with this same hamstring injury, so not ideal that he's already re-aggravated it after just a few practices that he's been back. And this now, I think, brings up the concern for Cowing in general of, hey, is this a guy who's ever going to be available to be on the field, who's ever going to be available to improve and put everything together? It's really hard to build any type of momentum in this league and make any kind of case for yourself when you have a hard time staying on the field. We've seen that with other wide receivers the 49ers have drafted in the past. Danny Gray, Jalen Hurd, some deep cuts, right? But I would hate to say and think that Jacob Cowing is heading towards that same trajectory. But as of right now, I mean, that's the trajectory he's currently in. And I just hope at some point he breaks out of it because, for one, the 49ers really need his help. And for two, I mean, for any wide receiver, any player that's drafted into the league, you want to make sure they have a fair shot. And these injuries making it pretty hard on him. By all accounts, seemed like he had a good offseason, preparing very well, preparing his body. But we're going to have to wait a while longer before we see Jacob Cowing in a game. And this now, I would think, puts his week one availability in question because the first time he dealt with this hamstring injury, he did miss quite a bit of time. So we're getting closer to the start of the season here. And so I have some worries about if Jacob Cowing is going to be available for that week one game, which is kind of, in addition to everything else that the 49ers are dealing with, not ideal. Again, they haven't had Jacob Cowing for much of this offseason, but it's a lot that's compounding right now. And one of those things is that Demarcus Robison also suspended. We literally got both of these pieces of news, I swear, within like an hour of each other. So for people to feel very panicky about the wide receiver room right now, I think it's fair. However, I will say this one we knew was going to happen. We knew that Demarcus Robison was going to be suspended. And if you look at similar cases around the league, I think a lot of us assumed that it would be a 3-game suspension for Demarcus Robison. So Kyle Shanahan did confirm again on KNBR that it is a 3-game suspension officially from the league. The 49ers will plan to appeal it. Robinson will plan to appeal it. But, honestly, I think it's going to end up being the 3. Again, that's pretty standard around the league. So I think that's what it's going to be. And so, again, that already puts into question who is going to be available for week one. Again, we already expected that Demarcus Robison wasn't going to be available. In fact, I will say this. The fact that we got this news before roster cut day is important. I think it's good for the 49ers that they got this news because he won't count against the 53, at least for now, with the suspension. So be good for the 49ers, and they may be able to slip another wide receiver into the 53-man roster because they need all the help and depth that they can get right now. All right, so with all this, even before the news that we had today, Dianna Russini, of course, the 49ers did know that Jacob Cowing re-aggravated his hamstring yesterday, but this morning, Dianna Russini did say that 49ers are among teams making calls in the wide receiver market. This makes a lot of sense, right? And it's something we've heard before about the 49ers this offseason. I believe it was Jordan Schultz who reported that the 49ers were interested on John Mechie before he was traded to the Eagles. And so definitely putting their feelers out there for what wide receivers could be available. My sense, personally, on what it would take for the 49ers to trade for a wide receiver, I really don't think they want to give up too much. They're looking for a deal that would cost them peanuts, right? Because I don't think they're really in a position to, give up the farm for a wide receiver right now. That's just not where they're at. A lot of people are mentioning Terry McLaurin as an option. I don't see that as an option for the 49ers. I mean, it kind of goes against, for one, everything that they have preached this offseason of wanting to get younger and being very careful about who they pay. Don't even think they wanted to pay Brandon Ayuk. That went down to the wire. So it doesn't make sense for them to trade assets for Terry McLaurin, for example, and then on top of that, have to pay him, pretty big deal after. So I don't think Terry McLaurin's an option. What I think is someone along the lines of a John Mechie or someone along the lines of very cheap day 3 conditional type of pick that you can get a player for, right? I think that's within the realm of possibility for the 49ers. It's not going to be anyone groundbreaking, right? It's not going to be anyone that I think is going to make a huge impact for this team, but maybe could have some upside, right? And there are some names that I'm, somewhat intrigued by. I think, you can mention Kendrick Bourne as an option. That feels like low-hanging fruit just because, he's already familiar with the system. Wouldn't cost them much at this point. I think Kendrick Bourne's kind of falling out of favor a little bit in the Patriots wide receiver room because they've drafted so many young wide receivers at this point. So he could be an option that wouldn't cost them much, but, has the possibility of maybe giving them some value at some point. Callie here says Romeo Doubs. Definitely that Packers wide receiver room is packed, right? There's a lot of guys who maybe could be available there. Dontavian Wicks is another option, possibly. So the 49ers, I think, have options out there in the league. Maybe Adam Thielen could be an option. Alec Pierce could be an option for the Colts, right? The Bills could maybe, part ways with Curtis Samuel, Elijah Moore. They're, again, bottom of roster guys or just guys who are falling out of favor in their current wide receiver rooms that, could be had for cheap. I think that's, like I said, within the realm of possibility for the 49ers. But yeah, not an ideal situation for them right now. And if you look at the current wide receiver room, it's a little bleak, especially at the top. I think that's the biggest concern, that it's mostly your best players at the top who are, going to be missing some time. So Brandon Ayuk, we know that at the very soonest, week 6. And I think we should assume that it'll be after that. Let's just mentally prepare ourselves for after that, right? Then we have Jauan Jennings, of course, calf injury / contract. I think that's why we haven't heard any updates about what's going on with Jauan Jennings. And I'm starting to get worried about Jennings because, for one, I don't think the 49ers are looking to blink in this scenario. I think in this game of chicken, they're not going to give in like they have for other players, like they did for Brandon Ayuk at the 11th hour last year as well. I see the 49ers taking this, to the very end, and they're going to leave it up to Jauan Jennings. And of course, Jennings has to play. He's only going to lose value if he doesn't play. And on top of that, he's going to lose money. So right now, because it's under the designation of him having an injury and it being a calf thing, he is not being fined. But I've said this before, and I think right now 49ers still playing nice. At any time, they could say, yeah, the calf is clear. If in fact it is clear, I suspect it is. They could say it's cleared up. He doesn't have it anymore. He's been cleared. And suddenly, if Jauan Jennings continues to miss practice after that, he's going to start to get fined. So, yeah, I think at some point, Jauan Jennings is going to have to show up and is going to have to start participating. My worry is with that situation is that the longer that he misses training camp and this ramp up, we know is very important to have your body ready during this ramp up period, this conditioning period, to be ready for football activities in week 1. He's at a higher risk for injury when he does come back, because suddenly he goes from not participating in anything to, full send. And I'm sure the 49ers would still, sort of ramp him up. But you know what I mean? Like, we kind of saw that with Brandon Ayuk as well. We saw that with Trent Williams, so I think there's a lot of examples of guys who wait till the very end to return to their teams, to start participating, and then suddenly it might put them at a higher risk for injury. So that would be my concern with Jauan Jennings. Like we said, he's already dealing with a calf. I think it was a legit injury to begin with, but with this contract dispute, I think it's getting milked just a bit. So no timeline on Jauan Jennings. Ricky Pearsall is healthy right now, and folks, I'm going to knock on wood. We need all the wood knocking we can get with this wide receiver room, so I'll spare no expense. Ricky Pearsall is healthy at the moment, so he's your wide receiver 1. And let's be honest, he looked pretty good as a wide receiver 1 on Saturday. The 49ers are going to be leaning on him heavily for the start of the season. He's your wide receiver 1 until further notice anyway. And then Demarcus Robison, as we said, he suspended the first 3 games of the season, and that is pending appeal, but I would assume the 3 games is going to stick. So you're not going to have Ayuk for sure. You're not going to have Robinson for sure for at least 3 games. And then who knows when Jauan Jennings is going to come back. Jacob Cowing, re-aggravated hamstring injury. Not sure what his timeline for return is going to be. But I think his week 1, if I had to assume, his week 1 may be in jeopardy right now, because definitely not something you want to rush him back from. I think the 49ers will be even more cautious with Jacob Cowing, seeing as how he's aggravated it again, this hamstring injury. So, could be a lengthy absence for Jacob Cowing. Then Jordan Watkins had a high ankle sprain, so his week 1 is in jeopardy as well. So suddenly, week 1 looks bleak. You could be going into week 1 with Ricky Pearsall, Russell Gage, and Robbie Chosen as your top 3 wide receivers. That doesn't inspire a lot of confidence in me. I mean, it helps that you have George Kittle, and I've said many times, George Kittle is a true wide receiver 1 if you want him to be, if you use him that way. So I hope they're prepared to lean heavily on George Kittle, on Christian McCaffrey, so you don't have to depend too much on your wide receiver group. I mean, Kyle Shanahan should be used to that by now, right? Right. But I think we're hoping for the best for, guys like Jennings, guys like Jordan Watkins, who may be available by week 1. And yeah, this is not good. But let's talk about the depth beyond, just some of those guys. So we talked about Ricky Pearsall. These are the guys that are healthy, right? So Ricky Pearsall, Russell Gage, Robbie Chosen. And then from there, and this is before cut down to 53, mind you. So this is more than they're going to have at the start of the season. They have Isaiah Hodgins, they have Junior Bergen, they have Tariq Owens, Malik Knowles, and Malik Turner. 2 Maliks now. They just signed Malik Turner just this past day, actually. So I think for the 53-man, I would expect that they usually keep about 7 or 8. I would expect them to keep. So Robinson, like I said, is not going to count against a 53, which is good for the 49ers. Brandon Ayuk, I think he could possibly start the season on IR. I don't exactly know how they're going to, play that one, but I think that makes sense. But he would also not count against the 53, for example, if he were on IR. So then you could probably keep 2 extra guys on this list. So I think Isaiah Hodgins, Junior Berger, and or maybe someone else that they pick via trade, or I think the 49ers are going to be also paying a lot of attention on which wide receivers get cut for the cut down to 53 around the league. They're going to be scouring. Of course, there are other teams who are going to be in that as well. So there's going to be some competition. Which is why it makes sense for the 49ers to strike a trade instead, kind of guarantee them a player. But yeah, I think I wouldn't be surprised if, we see a trade and we see them, grab a free agent or someone off of waivers after the cut down to 53. So that's my expectation right now. This wide receiver room situation has been bleak even before the news of today. And again, we already knew Demarcus Robison was going to be getting suspended. The 49ers, I think, figured that before they signed him as a free agent. So that's one they've been prepared for, I think. But the injuries, all the other injuries in this group hasn't made it any easier to swallow that pill for the 49ers. So let me get to a couple of comments here. Appreciate all of you. Make sure you like this video. I know it's been a day. If you're a 49er fan, it's been quite the week, but you're not mad at me. You're mad at the 49ers. You're mad at this wide receiver room. You're mad at injuries. Like the video anyway, because you're not mad at me. All right. Death, taxes, and Cowan getting hurt. Ugh. I hate this. I really hate when a player that I was excited about, especially, continues to deal with injuries. Because you just know it at some point, if it keeps happening, you just know there's not a chance for them. I don't think we're there yet with Cowan, but still not good. I'm just seeing reports or news coming in right now there's a lot of trades across the NFL happening right now. I know there's been a few for a couple defensive tackles, but this one for wide receiver, the Broncos are sending wide receiver Devon Vele to the Saints for a 2026 fourth round pick and a 2027 seventh round pick. Kind of feels like a lot to give up for Vele, no? But this is a good example, I think, of, just teams who are willing to move on from players if the position group is, kind of crowded, right? And trying to get some assets. So the 49ers could look to strike while the iron is hot. But yeah, there's other teams who have been reported to be interested in the wide receiver market as well. So they'll have competition. And I think at some point, if they truly want to make something happen, if they truly want to get a decent enough wide receiver, they're going to have to dish out at least a little more than other teams are willing to. Jets also interested in a wide receiver, Vikings. So they'll have to get competitive. Okay, Foot is asking, who are the top 3 targets the Niners might be pursuing in the vet wide receiver market? I hope I answered that earlier. We threw out a couple of names. I think at least one of the wide receivers, I think, from the Packers could be available. It's one of the guys that are a little further down the depth chart. We mentioned Wicks. We mentioned Dobbs as an option. I think a wide receiver from the Bills that's lower on the depth chart could be an option. Elijah Moore, Curtis Samuel. I think Adam Thielen, I think, makes sense for a lot of teams. He makes sense for the Vikings, if we're being honest, but I don't think the 49ers would go for Adam Thielen, but at least you could get something out of him. He's like the way, way better Trent Taylor. That feels like offensive to Adam Thielen to even mention him in the same sentence, but Cowan has been injured. I mean, he has dealt with injuries before, so this isn't new for Cowan necessarily. I know the hamstring thing maybe new, but he has dealt with some injuries before. I think they're just maybe a little more minor at some point. All right. Can Demarcus appeal the suspension, therefore play in week 1? He can and he will appeal based on what Kyle Shanahan said. I don't know how long the appeals usually take. Theoretically, like if it took several weeks, for example, like there's a possibility he could play week 1. But sorry, my throat gets hella dry when I doing these shows by myself. So theoretically, Niner Faithful, he could, but I think the three game suspension is going to stick. And I think the 49ers probably want it to be resolved before week 1, before roster cuts again, so they can just put him on a list that doesn't impact their 53 man, and then they can keep another wide receiver in the meantime. Jedi thinks that Jauan Jennings will be miraculously ready week 1. I think so. I think so too. At some point, he's going to have to. He's going to have to show up, and he's going to have to participate. Again, I just worry about his injury risk now when he does get back out there. And yes, the offense is going to have to move through Kittle, CMC, Pearsall for at least the first few weeks. CMC is the key to the whole season. Yeah, he's a key to this whole team much of the time. So definitely. Juice can run routes as well. Yeah, he can. I mean, the 49ers love Juice. I'm sure he'll get some of his opportunities as well if, wide receivers are short and they want to involve other guys. Yeah, and then I'm pretty sure Kyle already said most of the starters won't play in the preseason game on Saturday, the final preseason game against the Chargers. So, yeah, I'd assume Kittle, McCaffrey, Pearsall, Trent, Brock, all those guys should not be out there on Saturday. Let's just get them out there for week 1. We're just praying until week 1 starts that no one else gets hurt. SNF says, agree with your week 1 take about wide receiver, but it's not like the Hawks have a wide receiver group that strikes fear either. Yeah, the Seahawks, first opponent for the 49ers. I think the 49ers defense to me looks pretty good. So I think it's probably going to be a good battle, and I would imagine be a close game. The 49ers could still move the ball with who they have. The guys that we've been mentioning, that's a lot of talent that they have, even without the wide receiver room having a lot right now. But so I still don't have much excuses for them. DJ Chark is a free agent. Could he be a decent option? At this point, the 49ers can't scoff at too many of these guys. Did you see who the 49ers have in their depth chart right now? It's just not good. So, the bottom of their wide receiver group, Tariq Owens should be nowhere near this 53. Malik Knowles, Malik Turner, nowhere near it. So yeah, I'd take a flyer on DJ Chark. I don't even think Junior Bergen, I wouldn't even have him make the team, at this point, based on what we've seen from him. So yeah, I'd take a veteran like Chark at this point. Give him a shot. Kayshawn, okay, the way you say his last name is Booty, right? That's how you say his last name. And don't joke around with me. Be serious. Kayshawn Booty, right? And the Patriots. Yeah, I think the Patriots have a lot of wide receivers. Kind of similar situation to the Broncos, who we just saw trade away Bele. I think they have a lot of young receivers that they're, optimistic about. So the Patriots wide receiver group could be one that, looks to part with one or two of those guys. Bird Dog, the running back group does look just as bad as far as injuries go, but the difference is that your RB1 is still available, Christian McCaffrey. And we know that the 49ers, if Christian McCaffrey is healthy, like, they don't really roll with anyone else. Like, they're good. We want them to feature other running backs, but they're okay with giving McCaffrey all of the carries if that's what it means. So, and Isaac Guerrero is back, so at least they'll have him available too. So not quite the same. A lot of injuries too with the running back group, but a lot of their injuries have been on the depth side of things. Still not great though. Still not great. All right. If you guys don't have any more, no, as far as I know, Guerrero did not get hurt again, unless I missed that. I'd cry. Did he? I didn't hear that. The only new injury I heard of today was the Cowan one. Let me see. Let me just double check on this Guerrero thing. Pretty sure he's been back. No, I didn't see any update on him. Jeff Wilson Jr. is going to make this team just off of the fact they don't really have anyone else that's healthy. You know, that's what it's looking like right now. All right, y'all. Appreciate all of you for tuning in. Again, make sure you guys like this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Audio listeners, leave a rating, leave a review. I'll be back tomorrow. Okay, Guerrero had a presser today, so he's definitely back. He's definitely healthy, so he's fine. At least for now. He's one of those other players that you're just like holding your breath, and every time he has a play, and every time he's out there, you're just hoping he's gonna make it for the next one. But yeah, he's good. Guerrero is good to go right now. All right, I'll be back tomorrow with a show with Mariah on my YouTube channel. So hit that notification bell so you know when I go live. But all right, y'all, have a good rest of your Wednesday. Peace.